Hi everyone. um Welcome to day 3 of Culture Shock Week. My name is Tia and I am the creator and host of Culture Shock Week. And today our culture is coming from Europe. So here are the origins of the Europeans. The Europeans have a very long history and they are originally from the Middle East, so like Africa, because that's where people come from. But they were hunters and gatherers who traveled across much of Asia on their way to Europe. And this group of people is thought to have arrived in Europe approximately 42,000 years ago. So, our culture for today is Greece, or Greek culture. So, this is the history of the Greek people. Um, One of the three Indo European tribes of origin, or of European origin, the Greeks are native to Greece. A branch of the Indo-Europeans was superimposed on the Mediterranean population during the second millennium BCE, giving rise to the Greeks. Greece's early colonists began to settle in the region between the Ionian and Aegean seas around 1800 BCE. Mycenaean civilization resulted from the union of the earliest Greek-speaking people and their ancestors. The Greeks started to colonize parts of Cyprus, Anatolia, and the Peloponnese. Um, I don't know, the Peloponnese and Crete around 1200 BCE. The Dark Ages, a period of disorderly movement in Greece spanning 2 centuries, would ensue after their migration and expansion. Following this time, Greek colonization slowed down and they remained in the same locations as they are today. So, now that we're done with the history, we can get into their culture. Um, Greece is a collectivist society because people there have a great sense of social and familial loyalty. Many Greeks limit their social life to their immediate family and close friends. These interpersonal connections are crucial to daily living for them. Arete, which is excellence, hubris, which is excessive pride, sophrosyne, which is self-control, and philotimo, which is love of honor, and democracy are a few of the fundamental principles of Greek society. So we're gonna get into our Greek author now. Her name is Ray Galanki. She wrote the books The Life of Ismail Farik Pasha, Spina nel Cor, and I Shall Sign as Louis. She won the 1999 National Award for Literature, the 2004 National Academy Award, the 2005 National Award for Literature, and the 2006 Reader's Choice Award of the National Book Center of Greece. So she's highly awarded, which means that her books have to be good, you know? Next, we're going to look into a Greek dance. The traditional Greek dance is called Kalamantianos, and it is sometimes regarded as the national dance of Greece. So, yeah, here is a traditional Greek dance. Okay. And now, I've been doing a legend for every culture, so we're also going to do a Greek legend. Many Greek legends and stories and things that can be found they usually come from and are taken from Greek mythology. And one of my personal favorites is the story of Persephone and how she does seasons, but also how she does spring, but also is the queen of the underworld and married to Hades. So yeah, here is a video example of the legend of Persephone.
Every year, before the ancient Greeks sowed their seeds of grain, they celebrated Demeter, the goddess of agriculture. On Earth, each morsel of food was sweet sustenance, while in the land of the dead, it ensured a permanent stay. Demeter tended to Earth's fields with her beloved daughter Persephone, who inherited her mother's passions and grew into a bright young woman. But all the while, a shadowy figure watched from below. One day, Persephone was frolicking in a meadow with the freshwater nymph Cyane. As they admired a blooming narcissus flower, they noticed it tremble in the ground. Suddenly, the earth split, and a terrifying figure arose. It was Hades, god of the dead and the underworld. He wrenched Persephone from Cyane, dragged her into his inky chariot, and blasted back through the earth. Cyane wept so hard she dissolved, becoming one with the river. By the time Demeter arrived at the scene of the abduction, the crater in the meadow had closed, and Cyane and Persephone had vanished. Demeter sped to Mount Olympus for help. Many of the gods had witnessed the scene, and they knew about the deal that paved the way for it. Zeus, Persephone's father, had granted Hades her hand in marriage without her consent, or Demeter's. But when faced with Demeter's pleas, the other gods stayed silent. So she searched alone. In her grief and desperation, she neglected her usual tasks. Crops withered, and a great famine plagued the earth. As mortals began to perish, the gods grew wary. Who would worship them and offer tributes if the humans disappeared? So, Zeus ordered Demeter to stop her crusade and return to her duties, but she refused. Deep below, across the frigid river Styx, and through the halls of the underworld, Persephone was waging her own protest. Hades expected her to serve as his wife and queen. But Persephone rebuffed the gods' advances and refused food. As she longed for her mother's company, her friends' laughter, and the sun's warmth, Persephone grew colder and lonelier. And she was starving. She hungered for satisfying grains, crisp vegetables, and fresh fruit. Wandering the ghostly gardens, she contemplated the pomegranates that hung heavily on their branches. Meanwhile, Demeter continued her hunt. She appealed to the all-seeing sun god Helios, whose rays had long warmed her crops. Indeed, when Helios drew his golden chariot across the sky that fateful day, he saw what happened, and he knew of the deal. Out of respect and sympathy for Demeter, Helios told her of Hades' demands, Zeus's betrayal, and Persephone's abduction. Furious and heartbroken, Demeter sped to Mount Olympus and confronted Zeus, demanding their daughter's return. But Zeus declined. In her ravenous hunger, Persephone had eaten a few seeds from the pomegranate that grew in the underworld. Though a meager amount, it was enough to ensnare her in Hades forever. Demeter wouldn't accept this fate. She swore that if she wasn't reunited with Persephone, the fields would never be fertile again, and the distinction between the earth and the underworld would soon dissolve. So, they made a pact. For 2/3 of every year, Persephone would return to the land of the living, but for the remainder, she would stay in the world of the dead. When Persephone ascended to earth, she and her mother rejoiced. Together they showered the fields with rain and nurtured them with sun. For mortals, Persephone's arrival came to herald the start of spring. But her descent always came too soon. Each time she returned to Hades, Demeter mourned, and the earth grew cold, dark, and unyielding, ushering in the winter months. Knowing Demeter couldn't be roused from her grief, the humans stored their crops, stoked their fires, and awaited Persephone's safe return. And so it was that her transit marked the gradual turning of the seasons and the bittersweet compromise between life and death. Escaping the underworld is no small undertaking, but it's been done.
And for this slide, I didn't include an actual recipe on the slide, but I did include a video that I'm about to play for you, and this is how to make tiro pizza, which is a Greek cheese pie. I've never had it, but it looked really good, and so I put it in here, and I think one day I might try it myself. But here is that recipe.
My dear friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm Ken, and today I will take you on a culinary journey through Greece featuring tiropita. That's right, tiropita is that all-famous and that dish that everybody knows and loves. It is the Greek feta pie in the phyllo dough. Very easy to make, very delicious, and there is not a Greek on the planet that does not eat this, know how to make this, or know somebody or related to somebody that knows how to make this dish. And today I'm going to show you how to make it very quickly, very easily in your own kitchen with only a few ingredients. There's nothing to this. You're going to need, very simply, some phyllo dough, about a pound or so of feta, can't forget the feta, 3 eggs, a little olive oil, and pepper. The salt in here is just a prop for today. I'm not using any salt whatsoever because the feta itself uses or has enough salt in it that you don't need anymore. So to start us off, I'm gonna take and crack 3 eggs into our bowl. Chuck those out here. Very easy. And the eggs in this recipe will act as a binder and they'll help just keep everything together. And I'm gonna do some fresh cracked black pepper. Again, I'm not using any salt in this whatsoever, only because there's enough salt in the feta, believe me, to carry this dish. So in will go some ground pepper. I would guesstimate this somewhere around, depending on your taste, anywhere from a teaspoon to a tablespoon, depending on how much you like. And just gently whip that up. So you're actually making almost like a scrambled egg, if you will. And this is what's going to help keep the feta binded. The next step in this is I'm going to add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, of course, about maybe a couple of tablespoons. I don't think you need anything more than that. And again, continue whisking as you go along. This is going to be our main flavor base for this. So now that that is done and it is whisked up, here comes the fun part. We're going to start crumbling our feta into our dish here, and actually our bowl. And it doesn't really matter, big chunks or small chunks, whatever works for you. This is one of the most therapeutic things for me, without making a mess either. And I'm just going to take the feta and just crumble it all up. And you're going to use, I know it may seem like a lot of feta, but it really isn't, because you're going to spread it over a 14 by 10 pan. It's like a stress reliever, actually. So now that our feta is all ground up and ready to go, what I'm going to do is just very quickly incorporate it all with the egg mixture, the olive oil, and a little bit of pepper that we've got in here. And it's almost going to become like a gluey paste, something very thick. So what you may want to do is actually, I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil just to help kind of loosen it up. Perfect. Just like that. This recipe is older than dirt. There is nothing about this recipe that really changes. You may want to add, depending on the part of Greece that this recipe is made in, they may add some mizithra, they may add whatever kind of local cheeses are available, but overall, this is just the classic recipe. So what we're going to do is first take our baking sheet and just slowly brush olive oil on the bottom. You don't need a heavy, thick layer. You don't need to make this kind of dripping in olive oil, just enough so it doesn't kind of stick at the bottom, which is perfect. For this, I'm using a 14 by 10 pan baking sheet actually, which actually works out perfect for the phyllo dough, the size of the sheets. The first sheet goes down, just like that. And again, a little bit of olive oil. And the rule for me is if you're making something that's savory and you're using phyllo, use olive oil in between the sheets. If you're using something that's sweet, like a baklava or a galactoburiko or something along those lines, then use melted butter. Another sheet goes down. I wouldn't worry too much about it as well if you got some sheets that are tearing or if they got some holes in them. It doesn't matter. No worries. It'll all kind of come out in the wash anyway as you cover this up. So again, some more olive oil. And I just added the last layer of phyllo, which is about 5 on the bottom. And you want a little bit of body to this as well. So that's why I don't recommend using 1 or 2. You don't want to go chintzy on the phyllo. Not that it's expensive, but you want the pita itself to hold as well. So very important there. So that's done. You with me so far? There's like nothing to this whatsoever. It's super easy. 5 sheets of phyllo on the bottom, layered or brushed in between with olive oil, and that's it. Now, we go back to our mixture of feta, and what I'm going to do is just very simply, just pour it in there. That's awesome. Just going to move that out of here. And with a spatula or whatever you have, spread it around. Get it all about as evenly as you can possibly get this, and spread it around to all the corners. You want this somewhere around 3/4 of an inch to about 1.5 inches, give or take. You don't want anything too thick, but you don't want anything kind of runny and weak either. All right. So now that that's taken care of, we continue on with the topping. And the top, again, 5 sheets, same exact process as we did on the bottom. Cover it up so it touches and it kind of seals, because you want to kind of create that pocket of deliciousness in there. A little more olive oil. Continue to baste this up. This is going to be so amazing. And there we have our last layer of our phyllo. It's just going on top. I may need a little olive oil, but what are you going to do? All right, so our phyllo is done. Our pita is ready to go. Now, to cover this up, what we're going to do is just carefully take this and just twist it over itself. So in other words, the bottom and the top layer of phyllo is actually going to get kind of curled over. And when you do this, it also seals up everything inside. And just like that, just tuck it under. It's almost like making pizza dough, if you will, where you just turn around and turn up the edges so it'll form like a little pocket of love in there. Deliciousness. All right, that's perfect. Just like that. Nothing fancy. This is just straight up old-fashioned cooking. And one last bit of olive oil all around just to kind of crisp up, moisten up and crisp up the top layer of the phyllo. And we're just about done. And now this will go into a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes to an hour. Keep an eye on it depending on your oven, because what will happen is you want this again to go like a crispy golden brown. You don't want this to burn. And when it's done, just pop it out. And that's it. That's all there is to this. And it's ready to go.
And that is all I have for Culture Shock Week Day 3. This one was really short. This one was really short. But yeah, I tried my best with this one. Most of Greek culture is kind of like European culture in general, really. It's kind of hard to make a PowerPoint on because it's hard to make a PowerPoint that teaches you something new, because you learn a lot in school about it, and then you also, a lot of European culture is just like normal. Not normal because all culture is normal, but it's like really pushed in the media. So you really know a lot more about it than the other ones. So I tried to include stuff you didn't know yet, and I hope this helped teach you something. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you tomorrow for Culture Shock Week Day 4. Bye, I guess. Bye.